My sister broke into my house, so I called the police. Ever have someone literally steal your keys during a fake apology, then use them to break into your house and start unpacking like they own the place? That was my Tuesday. I'm Riley, 27, and I've spent most of my life living in the shadow of my older sister, Brooke, 30 years old, always the favorite, the type. Smart, social, capable of charming her way out of any situation. Meanwhile, I've always been labeled the irresponsible one, which in my family basically means the one who does all the work but gets zero credit. Growing up, Brooke always had the best of everything. Her birthdays, massive backyard parties with bounce houses and pony rides. Mine, pizza in the dining room with a grocery store sheep cake. Brooke got the Barbie dream house for Christmas. I got a secondhand knockoff with a broken elevator. My parents would just say, "You don't need all that fancy stuff," or "Be grateful for what you have." But Brooke's gratitude was never required in the same way. The real divide happened when I started college. I'd worked hard in high school, juggled AP classes and extracurriculars to keep my GPA up, got accepted to a decent state university, and thought I had a solid plan. I'd commute from home to save money on norms. Brooke had gone to her dream school out of state, and my parents paid for everything. So I figured they'd help me too. Wrong. When I mentioned my plan to live at home, my mom looked at me like I just suggested we move to another planet. "If you're staying here, you'll need to contribute," she said casually. "Brooke got a full ride from us because she deserved it. You need to learn responsibility." I was 18, about to start college, and they were already talking about me paying rent. Contribute turned out to be $400 a month for rent and utilities, plus buying my own groceries. That might not sound like much unless you're a broke college student working part-time at a bookstore for $9 an hour. I tried to argue, reminded them that they'd covered everything for Brooke, that she'd never had to worry about money during school. Mom just shrugged. "We gave Brooke what she needed. You're different. You're independent. You'll figure it out." So I did. I worked as many hours as I could at the bookstore, sometimes skipping meals to make ends meet. Every morning, I'd walk past the campus coffee shop, envious of students who could afford lattes and pastries, while I brown-bagged peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and drank free coffee from the bookstore break room. I never bought a single textbook at full price. Everything was used or borrowed from the library. Every month, I handed over that $400 to my parents. Meanwhile, Brooke was away at her out-of-state school, living in a brand new dorm my parents had paid for. She called me once to complain about the AC in her dorm not being cold enough. I almost lost it. I didn't even have AC in my car because I couldn't afford to fix it. My parents kept sending Brooke money every month, too. I once overheard Mom on the phone saying, "We don't want her to struggle. College is hard enough." I stood there in the kitchen holding my dollar ramen, wondering why none of that compassion ever extended to me. To make things worse, my parents constantly praised Brooke for everything. She got a 3.2 GPA in her communications major, and they threw her a huge graduation party. Catered buffet, DJ, the works. When I graduated with a 3.9 in computer science, we had a quiet dinner at home. Mom made lasagna and said, "Well, we don't want to make a fuss." Looking back, I think what hurt most wasn't the lack of financial support. It was the clear message that I didn't matter as much. Brooke was always portrayed as the star with potential. I was just there. Even when I succeeded, it was overlooked. "Riley's smart. She doesn't need help," they'd say. Being capable was a punishment. After college, I moved out as fast as I could, rented a tiny apartment near my first job, and started building my life on my own terms. It wasn't easy, but it felt amazing to be free from their expectations. I worked hard, lived frugally, started saving. Meanwhile, Brooke married Cameron, 32, unemployed half the time. My parents love him, despite the fact that he's constantly between jobs. They currently have 3 kids, Emma, 5, Mason, 4, and baby Liam, 2. My parents are constantly bailing them out. When their car broke down last year, Mom and Dad handed them money for a new one. When Brooke complained about how hard it was juggling 3 kids, they offered to babysit every weekend. I wish it didn't bother me anymore, but it does. No matter how much I accomplish on my own, it feels like I'll always be second to Brooke. That's why I don't share much about my life with my family anymore. I know they won't care. Not really. So I've been keeping this quiet, but I recently decided it was time to start looking for a house. I'd been renting the shoebox apartment for years, paying way too much for what was basically a glorified closet, and I'd been saving for what felt like forever. I finally got to the point where I thought, you know what? I deserve this. Here's the thing. I didn't tell my family, not because it's some huge secret, but because nothing with them can ever just be about me. Everything becomes a group project. If I mentioned anything, I knew they'd start making it about Brooke and her kids and how whatever I had could somehow help them. So I decided it was easier to keep quiet until everything was done. Apparently, that was too optimistic. I'm not sure how it happened, but a coworker of mine, let's call her Michelle, somehow let it slip. Michelle's one of those people who's always curious about what everyone's doing, and I think she casually mentioned to someone that I was house hunting. That person just happened to be Brooke's neighbor. From there, the news spread like wildfire. The joys of small-town life. A few days later, my mother called. "Riley," she said, her tone overly cheerful, "why didn't you tell us you're looking for a house?" I should have known better, but I tried to play dumb. "Oh, I'm just browsing, nothing serious." "Well, Brooke and I have been talking, and we have some great ideas for you." I could feel the dread creeping in.
You're going to need something big enough for everyone, at least 4 bedrooms. For the kids, of course. "What kids?" I asked. "I don't have kids." She kept going like this was the most normal thing in the world. "You'll need space for Brooke's family when they visit, and for us too. Oh, and it'd be great if it was close to Brooke's place." I was stunned. She'd already turned my potential house into the solution to their problems. I said something non-committal and hung up as fast as I could, thinking it was a one-time thing. But oh no, it wasn't. My mom and Brooke started flooding me with house listings after that. I'm not exaggerating when I say it became a part-time job for them. Every single day, I'd get at least a dozen links to ridiculous houses. Huge homes with 4 or 5 bedrooms, pools, 3-car garages, the works. It was like they thought I was shopping for a reality TV mansion. One day, Mom texted, "Did you see that one on Maple Street? It's huge, just perfect." Another time, Brooke emailed me a link to a 6-bedroom house with a note that said, "This would be so perfect for us. We'd finally have space to spread out." Us. I stared at that message for a solid minute, wondering how my house purchased had become a group effort. What's the worst part? They weren't even pretending it was about me. Every house they suggested was geared toward Brooke's family. "This one has a finished basement. Cameron could turn it into his man cave. The kids would love the pool in this one. Look, Riley, there's even a guest suite for Mom and Dad when they visit." It was exhausting. At first, I tried to gently redirect them, told them I was only looking for something small for myself, but that just made it worse. That's when I decided to stop responding. I muted the group chat, ignored their messages. I figured that they'd eventually get the hint and move on. Meanwhile, I kept looking for houses on my own. I spent my evenings scrolling through Zillow and my weekends checking out open houses. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, and I avoided anything even remotely close to Brooke's neighborhood. I didn't want to run into anyone who might report back to my mother. After weeks of searching, I finally found it. A little 2-bedroom cottage just outside the city. It had everything I wanted: a cozy front porch, a sunny kitchen, a yard big enough for a garden. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like home the moment I walked through the door. I knew it was mine. I put in an offer, and after a few nerve-wracking days, it was accepted. I can't even describe how amazing it felt. For the first time in my life, I was doing something completely for myself. No input from anyone. Of course, I didn't tell my family. I decided to let them keep sending their helpful suggestions while I quietly moved forward. But then, my mother called out of nowhere. "We're having dinner next weekend. You're coming, right?" I almost said no, but then I had a thought. You know what? Let's just get this over with. So I'm going to this dinner, and I already know what it's going to be like. They'll probably have a whole presentation ready. Here's the fun part. I'm about to drop the bomb that I've already bought a house, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. I can already hear the dramatic gasps and complaints. Thanks for sticking around. I'll update you after the dinner. Update 1. First of all, I want to thank everyone who left comments and advice on my last post. I promised to update you after dinner, so here we go. Buckle up because it was a lot. So, I showed up at my parents' place last Saturday at 6 p.m., mentally prepared for whatever nonsense they were about to throw at me. The moment I walked in, there was already chaos. The kids were screaming, Cameron was sitting on the couch watching TV, and my mom was rushing around in the kitchen. She glanced over and said, "Oh, good, you're on time for once. We're almost ready." Great start, right? We sat down for dinner, and the conversation started with the usual small talk. Dad complained about gas prices, Cameron about something at work, Brooke about how hard it was managing 3 kids.
Liam keeps waking up in the middle of the night, she said, scooping mashed potatoes onto her plate. We're just so cramped. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I knew where this was going, but I played along, nodding sympathetically while focusing on my lasagna. Then my mother cleared her throat in that way she does before making an announcement. "Riley," she said with a big smile, "we've been talking and we think we found the perfect house for you." I almost choked on my water. Of course they did. "Oh?" I asked, keeping my tone as neutral as possible. "Yes," Brooke chimed in. "It's a beautiful place, and it's only a few blocks from us. It has 5 bedrooms, a huge yard for the kids, and even a guest suite." Mom interrupted before I could respond. "It's perfect for everyone. There's plenty of room for the kids to finally have their own space, and Cameron could even set up an office. Plus, it's in such a great neighborhood, close to good schools." I just stared at them, stunned. They weren't even pretending it was about me anymore. "So," Brooke said, smiling like everything was settled, "we can go see it tomorrow if you want." That's when I decided I'd had enough. "Actually," I said, setting down my fork, "I've already bought a house." The room went completely silent. Even the kids stopped making noise. "What?" Mom asked, her voice sharp. "I bought a house," I repeated. "It's a small 2-bedroom cottage just outside the city. It's perfect for me." For a brief moment, I wondered if they'd be happy for me. Mom's face turned red. Brooke's mouth practically dropped to the floor. "A cottage?" Brooke finally asked, her tone dripping with disbelief. "How are we supposed to fit in a cottage?" "You're not, because it's my house. I bought it for me." Mom jumped in before Brooke could respond. "Riley, how could you make such a big decision without consulting us? We've been working so hard to find the perfect place for you." "No," I said, trying to keep my cool. "You've been working hard to find the perfect place for Brooke and her family. I didn't need your help. I knew what I wanted, and I bought it." Brooke's voice got really high-pitched, like she was about to cry. "But we need this, Riley. Do you know how hard it is for us in that tiny apartment? The kids have to share a room, and Liam's crib is in our bedroom. It's not fair to them." I took a deep breath, trying not to lose it. "That's not my problem, Brooke. I've worked hard to get where I am, and I'm not giving up my dream house to fix your situation." That's when Dad decided to chime in. He slammed his hand on the table. "You're being selfish, Riley. Family is supposed to help each other. What's wrong with you?" I stood up, my heart racing. "I'm not selfish. I'm finally standing up for myself. And if that makes me the bad guy in your eyes, so be it." The room erupted into chaos. Brooke was crying, Mom was ranting about how she raised me better than this, Dad was going on about how disappointed he was. Cameron just sat there, shoving food in his mouth like nothing was happening. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Mom followed me, crying. "You can't just walk away from your family like this." I turned back and said, "Watch me." Then I got in my car and drove home, shaking with both anger and relief. Things have escalated in ways I didn't expect. My mother and Brooke have gone on full social media attack mode. Brooke posted pictures of her kids crammed together on their bunk beds with captions like, "All they want is a little space to grow, but I guess some people think family isn't worth helping anymore." People who didn't know the full story left comments, "How could anyone be so heartless?" To make matters worse, someone, probably Michelle, saw these posts and now half my office is talking about how I abandoned my family. I'm trying to stay positive and focus on my new house, but it's getting harder. I'm bracing myself for whatever comes next, but I'm confident I made the right decision. This house is mine, and I'm not backing down. I'll update if anything major happens. Thank you so much for all your support. You have no idea how much it means.
Update 2. I've been reading through your comments, and wow, you guys didn't hold back. A lot of you expressed shock at how entitled my family sounds, and believe me, I feel the same way. Others shared their own stories with similar situations, and it's comforting to know I'm not alone. So things have taken a weird turn. My mother showed up at my apartment yesterday unannounced. She was standing there with an apple pie, not my favorite, I prefer cherry, and the fakest smile I'd ever seen. "Hi, Riley. I thought I'd stop by and see how you're doing." She said she hadn't been part of the social media mob attacking me for weeks. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She set the pie on the counter and looked around my apartment like she was taking inventory. "I wanted to apologize," she started, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Things got a little heated, and I realize now that we were wrong to push you like that. You've worked hard for this house, and I should have respected your decision." Something about her tone didn't sit right with me. Then she launched into this long speech about how proud she was of me and how the stress of Brooke's situation had made everyone act out. "But that's no excuse," she added, giving me this sad, almost pleading look. "I was thinking maybe we could have a fresh start. I'd love to come visit again sometime. Maybe bring Brooke and the kids. It'd be nice for everyone to see your new place." So there it was, the real reason for her visit. After she left, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Later that night, I realized what was bothering me. She'd spent an unusually long time looking at my locks and asking about my move-in timeline. My suspicions were confirmed when I got home from work today and found my spare key missing. The one I'd stupidly left on the kitchen counter during my mother's visit. My phone buzzed just as I was processing this. My next-door neighbor sent me a text. "Hey, I noticed some people trying to look into your windows last night. Looked like a couple with kids. Is everything okay?" I immediately called a locksmith to change all the locks. I'm also getting security cameras installed first thing tomorrow morning. I can't believe they'd stoop this low, but I'm also not surprised. I've stopped answering calls and texts from anyone in my family. Mom's apology was clearly just a reconnaissance mission, and I'm done giving them the benefit of the doubt. The scary part? I don't think they'll stop. Dad left a voicemail saying, "This isn't over, Riley. Family sticks together whether you like it or not." At this point, it feels more like a threat than concern. I'm documenting everything now. Every text, voicemail, and suspicious incident. My gut tells me I'll need this evidence soon. I'll keep you updated if anything else happens. Reddit, thank you for all your support. It's incredibly validating to have people confirm I'm not crazy for demanding basic boundaries.
Update 3. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be posting this update, but here we are. What happened today has left me absolutely disturbed, and I'm still trying to process everything. I left this morning to run some errands. Grocery shopping, picking up a package from the post office, normal stuff. When I got home around noon, I noticed something strange. Brooke's SUV was parked right in front of my house. My heart sank immediately. I walked up to the door, fumbling with my keys, and heard voices inside. Brooke, Cameron, and the kids were in my house. The scene inside was complete chaos. Emma and Mason were sprawled on my couch, surrounded by snacks and toys. Liam was toddling around my living room, chewing on a throw pillow. Cameron was in the kitchen, raiding my fridge. And Brooke was in the sunroom, rearranging my furniture like she was on some home makeover show. What the hell is going on? I managed to say, my voice shaking with fury and disbelief. Brooke looked up, unbothered. Oh, hey Riley, we figured it'd be easier to just move in while you were out. I stared at her, trying to comprehend what she'd just said. Move in? Mom gave us the key, she explained, nodding toward the kitchen counter. We really needed the space, and your house is perfect for us. It could have been bigger if you'd listened to us, but we'll make it work. Cameron can finally have an office. Instead of arguing, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Seriously? Brooke said, her voice full of disbelief. You're calling the cops on your own family? Watch me. When the police arrived, Brooke and Cameron tried to argue that, since we were family, this wasn't a real break-in. The officers weren't having it. They told them they were trespassing and needed to leave immediately. Brooke started crying, saying she didn't realize it was such a big deal. Cameron muttered something about me being selfish as they packed up their stuff, including the snacks they'd stolen from my pantry. After they left, one of the officers pulled me aside and asked if I wanted to press charges. I thought about it for a moment, then decided against it, as long as they stayed away from my property. The officer nodded, saying they'd file a report in case anything else happened. I've already called a locksmith to change the locks again, and I'm having a security system installed tomorrow. I've also hired a lawyer to draft an official cease and desist letter to send to my parents, Brooke, and Cameron. The letter outlines everything they've done and states that if they continue to harass me, I won't hesitate to take legal action. I still can't believe my own sister thought this was okay, and that my mother gave them the key. I don't even have words for it. I'll keep you updated if anything else happens, but maybe this is the final straw. I'm done giving them chances. Blood isn't always thicker than water, especially when it's toxic. Update 4. I want to start by thanking everyone who's followed this wild ride. After all your comments and support, I think I owe you one final update on this situation. Yes, I mean final, because I've officially cut ties with my family. First came the guilt-tripping phone calls. Every single relative, including ones I hadn't spoken to in years, started calling me. My aunt, who barely acknowledged my existence growing up, left a voicemail that said, "How can you do this to your sister? Family sticks together." Then my parents launched a smear campaign in our town. Mom posted photos of my house on Facebook. I'm not sure how she got them, with captions like, "It's so sad when someone forgets where they came from. Family sacrifices so much for you, and this is how they repay you." People who didn't know the full story left comments calling me ungrateful and selfish. Last week, Brooke took it to a whole new level. She showed up at my workplace during lunch hour with all 3 kids. I was in a meeting when our receptionist called to say my sister was crying in the lobby and causing a scene. By the time I got there, half my coworkers had gathered to watch Brooke dramatically tell everyone how I was making her children homeless. I pulled her aside and told her to leave. She responded by letting the kids run wild around the office while yelling about how I had plenty of space but was too selfish to share.
Security had to escort them out, and I had to have an awkward conversation with my boss about keeping my personal issues out of the workplace. The final straw came yesterday.
My parents organized an intervention at their house. They told my grandmother I was having a mental breakdown and needed family support. When I refused to attend, they tried to have a local pastor come to my house to educate me on family obligations. After consulting with my lawyer, I took serious legal action. I filed for a restraining order against Brooke and Cameron, citing all the harassment and the break-in. My lawyer also sent cease and desist letters to my parents about their social media posts and harassment. I've set up a full security system with cameras and motion sensors, changed my phone number and email address, which I only shared with trusted friends and my job. All my social media accounts are now set to strict privacy settings, blocking not only my family, but also their friends and anyone who might feed them information. The weirdest part of all this, they still seem to think they're in the right. My mother sent me one last email before I blocked her, saying I was breaking her heart and that she raised me better than this. She still doesn't get that this isn't about being mean or selfish. It's about setting basic boundaries and respecting myself. But you know what? For the first time in my life, I actually feel free. My house is exactly how I want it. I've started planting a garden in my backyard, which I'd always wanted to do but never had the space for. I'm getting to know my neighbors, the ones who don't report back to my family. I even adopted a cat. She's currently napping in my sunny window. She also doesn't have to share her space with anyone she doesn't want to. Last weekend, I had a small housewarming party with some coworkers. We drank wine and ate cheese on my cute little porch, and no one told me I needed more space or questioned my life choices. It was just normal, happy, peaceful. I know some people might read this and think I'm heartless for cutting off my family, but after 27 years of being treated like a backup plan, an ATM, and a solution to everyone else's problems, I'm finally putting myself first. Recognizing that family is more than just blood, it's about respect, boundaries, and mutual support, can be the healthiest thing you do. As for the house that started all this drama, it's become my sanctuary. Every morning, I wake up in my home, decorated exactly how I want it, with no one else's expectations to meet but my own. And I know I made the right decision. Thank you to everyone on Reddit who supported me through this journey. Your comments, advice, and shared stories helped me stay strong when I was doubting myself. To those who shared similar experiences, you helped me realize I wasn't alone in demanding basic boundaries. And to those currently struggling with similar family issues, stay strong. You deserve to live your life on your own terms. I probably won't be updating the story anymore, partly because I've cut off all contact with my family, and partly because I'm ready to move on with my life. But I'll still be around Reddit, maybe helping others who are in similar situations. Thank you all again. Your support meant more than you'll ever know. Drop a like and subscribe for more stories that prove sometimes the universe knows exactly what it's doing. See you in the next one.